Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Defense Station Alpha, watching the sunrise paint New Eden's surface in golden light. The planet below looked peaceful, its cities gleaming like jewels scattered across green continents. Ships moved in steady streams between the orbital stations, carrying goods and passengers in the daily dance of a thriving colony. "Beautiful morning, Captain," said Dr. Lisa Hayes as she joined him at the viewing window. The xenobiologist carried her usual coffee cup and wore the tired smile of someone who had been up all night working. Jake nodded, his weathered face relaxing slightly. 50 years since the first colonists landed down there. Hard to believe how far we've come. New Eden had grown from a handful of prefab shelters to a world of 2.3 million people. 3 major cities sprawled across the main continent, connected by maglev trains and surrounded by vast farms that fed not just the colonists, but also provided exports to Earth and the other human settlements. The space around the planet buzzed with activity: cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining ships, and the sleek patrol vessels that kept everything safe. "The Anniversary Celebration Planning Committee wants to know if you'll give a speech at the main ceremony," Lisa said, settling into one of the deck chairs. "They're expecting representatives from all 3 allied species." Jake made a face. He preferred action to speeches, but duty was duty. "I suppose I can manage something. Are the Zephyrian ambassadors still complaining about the temperature in their quarters?" "Always, but Ambassador Veltar seems happy enough. The Karathi delegation brought those singing crystals as gifts for the ceremony." Lisa paused, studying her coffee. "You know, sometimes I can't believe how well this all worked out. When I was a kid, aliens were just science fiction. Now I share research data with beings from other star systems." The past 20 years had seen remarkable progress in interspecies relations. The Zephyrians, with their tall, graceful forms and silver skin, had been the first to make contact. They were natural diplomats and traders, always eager to share knowledge. The Karathi followed, shorter and stockier, with an amazing talent for engineering. Their help had made the faster-than-light communication networks possible. The Vex Collective, a group mind of insect-like creatures, had joined the Alliance just 5 years ago, bringing advanced medical technology that had nearly eliminated disease on human worlds. "Contact from Patrol 7, announced the COAM system. "Routine check-in from the outer system." Alex Turner, the young communications officer, looked up from his station. "That's Commander Kate Sullivan's patrol. She's running the perimeter sweep near the asteroid belt." Jake walked over to the command center. Kate Sullivan had been his right hand for 3 years now, ever since she transferred from Earth Fleet. She was thorough, smart, and had an instinct for trouble that had saved them more than once. "Put her through," Jake ordered. Kate's voice crackled over the speakers, clear despite the distance. "Alpha Station, this is Patrol 7. Outer system is quiet. We did pick up some odd energy readings near grid 779, but they faded before we could get close enough for a proper scan." "Odd how?" Jake asked, frowning. In his experience, odd usually meant trouble. Hard to say. Brief spikes, almost like drive signatures, but not matching any known patterns. "Could be equipment malfunction on our end. We're continuing the sweep and we'll file a full report when we return." "Copy that, Patrol 7. Stay alert out there." Lisa had moved to the communication station, her scientist's curiosity aroused. "Unknown energy signatures? That's interesting. Could be a natural phenomenon we haven't cataloged yet. Or it could be nothing," Jake said. But he made a mental note to review Kate's full report carefully. The outer system was supposed to be empty, except for asteroids and the occasional mining operation. Admiral Ben Crawford's image appeared on the main screen, his weathered face serious despite the slight delay from Earth. "Jake, just wanted to confirm that Earth Fleet will have a full squadron at your anniversary celebration. President Carter sends her congratulations to New Eden." "Thank you, sir. It'll be good to have Earth Fleet represented. How are things out there? Any concerns I should know about?" Jake hesitated for a moment, thinking about Kate's report. "Nothing specific, Admiral. We had some unusual readings in the outer system, but it's probably nothing. Keep me posted. Earth has been picking up some strange chatter from our deep space monitoring stations. Nothing we can make sense of, but it has the intelligence boys curious." After the call ended, Jake found himself staring out at the peaceful scene again. New Eden looked so secure, so established. The orbital defense platforms were state-of-the-art. The patrol schedules covered every approach to the system, and the alliance with 3 alien species provided additional security. What could possibly threaten them? Dr. Hayes was back at the window, watching a school group's transport heading to the surface for a field trip. I remember when my parents brought me to see the first interspecies cultural exchange. I was 8 years old and completely amazed by the Zephyrian dancers. Different world back then, Jake agreed. Everything was new, everything was uncertain. Now look at us. The afternoon passed quietly. Jake reviewed patrol reports, approved supply requisitions, and dealt with the 100 small details that kept a space station running. The energy readings Kate had mentioned showed up as brief spikes in the sensor logs, but nothing that seemed threatening. Probably solar wind interacting with the asteroid field in an unusual way. As evening approached, Jake stood once again at the observation window. New Eden's night side faced him now, scattered with the warm lights of cities and towns. Transport ships moved in their regular patterns, their running lights creating streams of color against the star-filled darkness. Alex Turner called from the comm station, excitement in his voice. Captain, we're getting something unusual on the long-range sensors. Multiple contacts at the edge of the system, but they're big, bigger than anything we've seen before. Jake's relaxed mood vanished instantly. How big? Each contact is showing as approximately 2 kilometers in length. There are at least 12 of them, possibly more. They just appeared out of hyperspace. Lisa moved to the sensor station, her face pale. That's not any of our allied species. Those are massive warships. Jake's mind raced. No one had scheduled any visits. Earth Fleet's anniversary squadron wasn't due for another week. The energy readings Kate had detected suddenly took on a much more sinister meaning. Red alert, Jake ordered, his voice steady despite the ice forming in his stomach. All stations to battle ready. Get me Commander Sullivan and recall all patrol ships immediately. Captain, Alex said, his voice shaking slightly. The unknown ships are moving into the system. They're not responding to any hails. Jake watched the tactical display as 12 massive alien vessels, larger than anything humanity had ever built, moved steadily toward New Eden. Whatever these beings wanted, Jake had the terrible feeling that 50 years of peace were about to come to a violent end. The massive alien ships moved through space like dark predators, their black hulls absorbing the light from New Eden's sun. Jake Morrison watched the tactical display with growing dread as the 12 vessels arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the planet. Still no response to our hails, Alex Turner reported, sweat beading on his forehead. I've tried every frequency, every protocol we know. Commander Kate Sullivan's patrol ships were racing back toward the planet, but they looked like toys compared to the alien vessels. Each unknown ship was the size of a small city, bristling with weapon arrays and strange geometric projections that hurt to look at directly. Dr. Hayes, any ideas about who these might be? Jake asked. Lisa shook her head, studying the sensor readings. Nothing in our databases matches these designs. The hull configuration is completely alien, not like the Zephyrians, Karathi, or Vex at all. The energy signatures are off the charts. Admiral Crawford's image flickered onto the main screen, the transmission delayed and crackling with interference. Jake, we're reading massive energy discharges from your position. What's your status? 12 unknown warships have surrounded New Eden, Admiral. They're not responding to communication attempts. I'm initiating full defensive protocols. Before Crawford could respond, the first alien ship opened fire. Beams of searing energy lanced down from orbit, striking New Eden's major cities without warning. The planet's shields, designed to deflect asteroids and small weapons, crumpled like paper. Jake watched in horror as downtown Haven, the capital city, disappeared in a ball of superheated plasma. They're targeting population centers. Kate Sullivan's voice crackled over the comm from her approaching patrol ship. No military targets, just cities full of civilians. Jake's training took over, pushing aside the shock and grief. All defense platforms open fire. Target the nearest enemy vessel. Alex, get me a planet-wide emergency broadcast. The orbital defense stations opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, and particle beam weapons focused their fire on the closest alien ship. The energy beam struck its dark hull and simply vanished, absorbed by some kind of shielding technology that was centuries ahead of human capability. Captain, Alex said, his voice barely a whisper, I'm getting reports from the surface. The first attack killed over 400,000 people. The aliens are targeting schools, hospitals, residential areas. The aliens fired again, and this time Jake could see the pattern. They weren't trying to conquer New Eden. They were trying to exterminate every living thing on it. The beams swept across the planet's surface like searchlights of death, turning cities into molten craters and forests into burning wastelands. Emergency evacuation order for all remaining population centers, Jake commanded, fighting to keep his voice steady. All available ships to begin immediate civilian pickup. We need to save everyone we can. Kate Sullivan's patrol squadron had reached the battle zone and was trying desperately to draw fire away from the planet. Her small ships darted between the massive alien vessels like angry insects, firing everything they had. Their weapons barely scratched the alien hulls. Kate, get your ships clear, Jake ordered. We need every transport we can get for evacuation. Negative, Captain. These things are monsters. Someone has to slow them down. Kate's ship performed an impossible turn, diving toward the nearest alien vessel. I'm reading massive energy buildup from their main weapons. I think they're preparing something big. Dr. Hayes grabbed Jake's arm. I'm detecting artificial gravity fluctuations from the alien ships. They're doing something to the planet's core. The truth hit Jake like a physical blow. The aliens weren't content with surface bombardment. They were going to crack the planet itself. All ships, emergency evacuation now. We have minutes, not hours. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, even personal shuttles converged on New Eden's remaining population centers. People fled in panic as the skies burned above them. Parents carried children. The elderly were helped by neighbors. And everyone moved with the desperate urgency of those who knew death was coming. Commander Sullivan coordinated the ground-based evacuation efforts, her voice coming through the comm with military precision despite the chaos. Evacuation Site 7 is at capacity, moving to backup location. We've got maybe 180,000 people loaded, but there are still over 2 million down here. Jake watched the tactical display as more alien ships emerged from hyperspace. Not 12 now, but 20. Then 30. The aliens had brought an entire fleet to destroy one peaceful colony. Admiral Crawford, are you receiving this? Jake called desperately. Crawford's face was grim. We're mobilizing every ship we have, Jake, but we're days away. Can you hold out? I don't think holding out is an option, sir. These aliens don't want to conquer us. They want us extinct. One of the alien vessels fired a weapon unlike anything they had used before. A sphere of crackling energy descended toward the planet's surface, growing larger as it fell. When it struck, the entire continent shuddered. Cracks appeared in the planetary crust, spreading outward from the impact point like a shattered window. The planet's structure is failing, Dr. Hayes reported, tears streaming down her face. They've destabilized the tectonic system. New Eden has maybe an hour before total collapse. Kate Sullivan's voice cut through the chaos. Jake, I've managed to board one of their ships. The interior is wrong. These beings, they're not like us at all. They see all intelligent life as something to be eliminated. This isn't conquest, it's extermination. Kate, get out of there and help with the evacuation. Negative. I'm uploading everything I can find about their technology and motivations to the defense network. Someone needs to warn Earth about what's coming. Her transmission was breaking up, filled with alien sounds and weapons fire. Tell my family I love them. Kate's signal went dead. Jake turned to Alex. How many people did we get off the planet? 180,000, sir. That's all we could manage. Jake stared at the numbers. 80,000 saved out of 2.3 million. Over 2 million human beings dead in less than 2 hours, killed without warning or mercy by aliens who saw them as nothing more than pests to be eliminated. The evacuation fleet limped away from New Eden as the planet died behind them. The alien weapons had done their work well. The world that had been humanity's crown jewel was now a ball of molten rock and toxic gases. Everything the colonists had built over 50 years was gone. Captain, Alex said quietly, I managed to get off a message to Earth before the communications array was destroyed. Admiral Crawford will know what happened here. Jake nodded, unable to trust his voice. He watched the expanding cloud of debris that had once been New Eden and felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. These aliens had made their choice. They had shown no mercy, taken no prisoners, offered no chance for surrender. They had simply arrived and begun killing. Sir, Dr. Hayes said, her voice hollow with shock. I've been analyzing the alien transmissions Kate uploaded. These beings call themselves the Harbingers. They've done this before. 12 other species, all extinct. They believe that any intelligent life except themselves is a threat that must be eliminated. Jake turned to look at the survivors crowded into the transport ships, families torn apart, Children orphaned and entire world's dreams turned to ash. The aliens had started this war without warning or provocation. They had chosen to make humanity their enemy. Alex, prepare a detailed report of everything that happened here. Every scan, every recording, every piece of data we have about these harbingers. Make sure it gets to Earth. Yes, sir. What should I tell them? Jake stared out at the alien fleet, still orbiting the ruins of New Eden like vultures. Tell them that the harbingers wanted a war. Tell them they're going to get one. The news of New Eden's destruction hit Earth like a shockwave. President Helen Carter stood in the emergency command center, watching the recordings that Jake Morrison's survivors had transmitted. The images were almost impossible to believe. An entire world killed in hours. 2.1 million innocent people murdered without warning or mercy. How long until the Harbinger fleet reaches our other colonies? President Carter asked. Admiral Ben Crawford studied the tactical displays. Unknown, Madam President. They could strike anywhere, anytime. We have 17 colonies and Earth itself to protect, and we don't know how many ships they have. Dr. Lisa Hayes, who had arrived on Earth with the other survivors just hours before, stood at the briefing table. Her face was pale but determined. Mr. President, I've analyzed everything Kate Sullivan uploaded before she died. The Harbingers don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They see any intelligent species as a threat that must be completely eliminated. How many times have they done this? Carter asked. 12 confirmed civilizations, possibly more. Each time they arrive without warning and kill everything. They've been doing this for thousands of years. The room fell silent as the full horror of the situation sank in. Humanity faced an enemy that had perfected genocide as an art form. President Carter's voice was steady when she spoke. Admiral Crawford, I'm declaring a state of total war. Every ship, every weapon, every resource humanity has is now dedicated to stopping these monsters. They want to exterminate us? Let's see how they handle the human race when we're truly angry. Within hours of the declaration, humanity began to mobilize like never before. On Earth, factories that had been producing consumer goods were converted to weapons manufacturing. Shipyards that had been building cargo vessels started producing warships. Universities became research centers focused entirely on military technology. Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, stood in the command center of the newly constructed Retribution Fleet headquarters. Through the windows, he could see hundreds of ships being assembled in space, destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and the massive new dreadnoughts that were humanity's answer to the Harbinger threat. The Tau Ceti colony reports their orbital defense grid is complete, reported Colonel Ryan Clark, the brilliant scientist who had been put in charge of humanity's most ambitious project. They've also begun construction of the stellar manipulation devices. Project Starfall was humanity's darkest secret. If conventional weapons couldn't stop the Harbingers, humans were prepared to turn stars themselves into weapons. The technology had existed in theory for decades, but it had never been built because the implications were too terrible to contemplate. Now, faced with extinction, humanity was willing to cross any line necessary. Commander Kate Sullivan's sister, Major Amy Sullivan, had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment in the fleet. She now commanded the boarding specialists, troops trained to capture Harbinger technology and learn their weaknesses. Her face bore the same determined expression her sister had worn. The prisoners we took from the Harbinger scout ship finally broke under interrogation, Amy reported. They're not just planning to kill us. They're planning to kill every intelligent species in the galaxy. We're just first on their list because we're expanding the fastest. Dr. Hayes looked up from her research data. That matches what I've learned from their technology. The Harbingers believe that intelligence itself is a disease that spreads through the galaxy. They see themselves as the cure. Jake studied the strategic map. Red markers showed confirmed Harbinger positions, while blue markers showed human forces. For the first time in months, there were more blue markers than red ones. What's our current strength? 2,000 warships completed and ready for combat. Admiral Crawford reported via holographic link from Earth. Another 1,000 under construction. Every human colony is now a military base. We've also received pledges of support from the Zephyrians, Karathi, and Vex Collective. President Carter appeared on the main screen, her face hard with determination. Admiral Morrison, you have authorization to use any and all means necessary to stop the Harbinger threat. The only acceptable outcome is their complete defeat. Jake nodded grimly. He understood what she wasn't saying. If it came to it, humanity was prepared to commit genocide to prevent their own extinction. The peaceful, exploratory species that had celebrated New Eden's anniversary was gone forever, replaced by something much darker and more dangerous. Intelligence reports that the Harbinger home system has been located, Dr. Hayes announced. Long-range reconnaissance drones have found it, a triple star system called Arcturus Proxima. The Harbingers have their main fleet and billions of their people concentrated there. The room fell silent as everyone understood the implications. The Harbingers had made their entire civilization into a single target. Colonel Clark spoke up. Project Starfall devices are ready for field testing. We've successfully destabilized 2 test stars in uninhabited systems. The chain reaction creates a supernova that can be seen from hundreds of light years away. Jake looked around the room at the faces of humanity's finest military minds and scientists. 6 months ago, these people had been working on peaceful exploration and scientific discovery. Now they were planning the extinction of an entire species. The first Harbinger attack on our colonies failed, Jake announced. The new Tokyo system held, thanks to the new defense platforms. But they'll be back with more ships. Let them come, Major Sullivan said, her voice carrying the cold fury that had become common among the survivors. We're not the same species they attacked at New Eden. They woke something up that they should have left alone. Amy was right. The attack on New Eden had changed humanity at a fundamental level. The peaceful explorers and diplomats were gone, replaced by warriors who understood that sometimes the only choice was between killing and being killed. Dr. Hayes pulled up holographic displays showing Harbinger ship designs. I've identified their weaknesses. Their shields can absorb energy weapons, but they're vulnerable to kinetic impact. More importantly, their ships are controlled by a central computer network. If we can disrupt that network, entire fleets become helpless. How do we get close enough to their command ships? Jake asked. We don't get close, Colonel Clark said, a cold smile crossing his face. We bring the stars to them. The meeting continued for hours as humanity's leadership planned the most ambitious military campaign in galactic history. The Harbingers had expected to face a peaceful species that would die quietly when attacked. Instead, they had awakened something that their ancient minds couldn't comprehend. A young, aggressive species that had evolved through millions of years of warfare and survival. As the meeting ended, Jake stood alone in the command center, looking out at the fleet that humanity had built in just 6 months. 2,000 warships, each one carrying weapons that could crack planets. In the deepest holds of the special ships, the Project Starfall devices waited, humanity's ultimate answer to the threat of extinction. The Harbingers had thought they were hunting prey. They were about to learn that they had become the hunted. Admiral, Alex Turner said, approaching with a communication tablet. We've received word from the outer colonies. Every human settlement is ready for war. The militia units are training with captured Harbinger weapons. Even the civilian populations are learning to fight. Jake nodded. The species that had once celebrated 50 years of peace on New Eden was gone forever. In its place stood something harder, angrier, and infinitely more dangerous. The Harbingers had wanted to exterminate humanity. Instead, they had created their own worst nightmare. An entire species united by grief, fury, and the absolute determination that such a tragedy would never happen again. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, flagship of the largest military fleet in human history. Behind him stretched 2,000 warships, each one representing humanity's determination to end the Harbinger threat forever. The fleet moved through space like a river of death, heading toward the Arcturus Proxima system where the aliens had made their final stronghold. Long-range sensors detect Harbinger outposts in the next system, reported Alex Turner, now serving as the fleet's chief communications officer. Looks like they're trying to establish a defensive perimeter. Jake studied the tactical display. The Harbingers had been retreating for months, abandoning their forward bases as humanity's war machine ground steadily toward their home system. Each battle had been a massacre. Human forces had learned to exploit every weakness in Harbinger technology, while the aliens seemed incapable of adapting to human tactics. Signal the attack squadrons, Jake ordered. Standard pattern. Destroy everything, take prisoners for interrogation, leave nothing functional. The battle for the Kepler defense station lasted exactly 43 minutes. Human ships swarmed the Harbinger positions like angry hornets. their kinetic weapons punching through alien shields while boarding parties captured anything useful. Major Amy Sullivan led her specialists aboard the main Harbinger command ship, fighting through corridors designed for beings twice human height. Another data core secured. Amy reported over the comm. These aliens really don't understand human determination. They keep trying to surrender, but their own programming won't let them stop fighting. Dr. Lisa Hayes analyzed the captured data from her position aboard the fleet's mobile research station. I'm seeing something interesting here. The Harbingers have a rigid hierarchy. They literally cannot act against their programming without authorization from higher levels. That's why they can't adapt to our tactics. Colonel Ryan Clark's voice crackled over the fleet communications. Project Starfall devices are performing perfectly in field tests. We've successfully destabilized 4 stars in uninhabited systems. The weapon is ready for full deployment. Jake felt no satisfaction at the news. Project Starfall represented the darkest achievement in human history, the ability to murder entire star systems. The devices could trigger a chain reaction that would turn any star into a supernova, destroying everything within dozens of light years. It was genocide on a cosmic scale, but the Harbingers had chosen this path when they murdered New Eden. Admiral, Alex announced, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the Arcturus Proxima system, the Harbinger homeworld. The main screen flickered, showing the grotesque form of a Harbinger commander. The alien's multiple eyes fixed on Jake with what might have been desperation. Its translated words echoed through the bridge. Human fleet commander, we propose negotiation. Terms of surrender can be discussed. Your species shows unexpected capabilities. Jake looked at the image of the creature that represented the same species that had killed 2.1 million innocent people without warning or mercy. His voice was cold when he responded. There will be no negotiation. There will be no surrender. You chose to make us your enemy when you murdered our people. Now you will face the consequences of that choice. The Harbinger commander's multiple eyes widened. You do not understand. We are the preservers of galactic order. Intelligence is a plague that must be controlled. We have maintained stability for millennia. Your stability died with New Eden, Jake replied, then cut the transmission. President Carter's image appeared on a secure channel from Earth. Her face showed the same hard determination that had driven humanity's war effort. Admiral, the people of Earth have voted. The resolution passed unanimously in the World Council. Quote, they chose to make us their enemy. Now they will learn what human fury truly means. End quote, Jake nodded. There would be no mercy, no second chances. The Harbingers had proven what they were when they destroyed New Eden. Now they would face the full consequences of awakening human wrath. The fleet continued its relentless advance toward Arcturus Proxima. Each system they passed through was swept clean of Harbinger presence. Space stations that had existed for thousands of years were reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Harbinger colonies that had thrived for centuries became empty worlds marked only by impact craters. Dr. Hayes made a disturbing discovery in the captured Harbinger databases. Jake, I found records of their other victims. 12 entire civilizations completely extinct. The Harbingers have been doing this for over 3,000 years. They're not just killers. They're the greatest mass murderers in galactic history. The revelation only hardened human resolve. Intelligence reports from the Zephyrians, Karathi, and Vex Collective confirmed that the Harbingers had been planning to attack all intelligent species eventually. Humanity had simply been first on their list because human expansion was the most rapid. Admiral, Major Sullivan reported from her assault ship, we've captured a high-ranking Harbinger officer. Under interrogation, he revealed that their entire civilization, over 50 billion individuals, is concentrated in the Arcturus Proxima system. They've recalled every ship, every population center. They're making their final stand there. Jake studied the intelligence reports. The Harbingers had made a fatal error in concentrating their entire civilization in one location. They had thought their superior technology and numbers would be enough to defeat any attack. They had not understood what they were truly facing. Colonel Clark, Jake called over the comm. What's the status of Project Starfall? Devices are loaded and ready, Admiral. We have enough to destabilize all 3 stars in the Arcturus Proxima system. The chain reaction will create a supernova visible from anywhere in the galaxy. Jake closed his eyes for a moment, thinking about what they were preparing to do. 50 billion intelligent beings would die when they triggered the stellar collapse. It would be the largest act of genocide in galactic history, dwarfing even the Harbinger's own crimes. But those 50 billion beings belonged to a species that had murdered 12 other civilizations. They had come to New Eden without warning and killed 2.1 million innocent people, including children, simply because they existed. They had made their choice. Fleet status report, Jake ordered. All ships operational and ready for final assault, Alex reported. Intelligence confirms that the entire Harbinger civilization has retreated to Arcturus Proxima. Their fleet strength is estimated at over 10,000 vessels, but they're concentrated in a defensive formation around their homeworld. The irony wasn't lost on Jake. The Harbingers, who had spent millennia hunting down and exterminating other species, were now trapped like animals in their own home system. They had nowhere left to run. Dr. Hayes, Jake asked, any final intelligence on Harbinger capabilities? Lisa looked up from her data screens, her face grim. They're desperate now, which makes them dangerous. But their command structure is still rigid. They can't adapt quickly to changing situations. If we can maintain the initiative, we can overwhelm them. Jake turned to look out at his fleet, 2,000 human warships carrying the finest weapons and the most determined crews in the galaxy. Behind them, the entire human species watched and waited, knowing that the fate of not just humanity, but all intelligent life in the galaxy hung in the balance. All ships, set course for Arcturus Proxima, Jake commanded. It's time to end this war. As the fleet entered hyperspace for the final jump, Jake thought about Kate Sullivan, Dr. Chen, and all the others who had died at New Eden. Soon, their deaths would be avenged. The Harbingers had thought they were exterminating just another primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something that would become the nightmare that ended their reign of terror forever. The Arcturus Proxima system blazed with the light of 3 ancient stars as Admiral Jake Morrison's fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the battlefield. Before them stretched the final stronghold of the Harbinger civilization, a massive sphere of over 10,000 alien warships protecting a cluster of inhabited worlds orbiting the triple star system. My God, whispered Alex Turner, staring at the tactical display. They've got their entire civilization here. Jake stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, looking out at the enemy that had murdered New Eden. The Harbinger fleet was enormous, but he could see the fear in their formations. These were no longer the confident exterminators who had attacked a peaceful colony. These were desperate beings fighting for their very survival. All ships' battle stations, Jake commanded. Begin the final assault. 2,000 human warships moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charging as they approached the Harbinger defensive line. The aliens opened fire first, their energy beams lancing out across the void. But humanity had learned from New Eden's destruction. Every ship carried kinetic shields that turned the Harbinger energy weapons into harmless light shows. Direct hit on their command ship, reported Major Amy Sullivan from her assault craft. Boarding parties are away. We're going for their fleet coordination center. The space between the two fleets became a hellscape of explosions and weapons fire. Human ships darted through the Harbinger formations like sharks among frightened fish, their kinetic weapons punching through alien hulls with devastating effect. The Harbingers had superior numbers, but humanity had superior tactics, superior training, and most importantly, superior fury. Dr. Lisa Hayes monitored the battle from the fleet's command ship, her screens showing the systematic destruction of Harbinger forces. Their formation is collapsing. The rigid command structure is working against them. They can't adapt fast enough to our attack patterns. Jake watched as squadron after squadron of human ships broke through the Harbinger defensive lines. Each breakthrough brought them closer to the alien homeworlds, where 50 billion Harbingers waited for the end. He felt no pity for them. They had chosen this fate when they chose genocide as their tool. Admiral, Colonel Ryan Clark's voice came over the secure channel. Project Starfall devices are in position around all 3 stars. We can trigger the chain reaction on your command. The moment of ultimate decision had arrived. With a single order, Jake could erase the entire Arcturus Proxima system from existence, along with every trace of the Harbinger civilization. It would be visible across the galaxy as a new nebula, a memorial to what happened when someone made humanity their enemy. Jake, President Carter's image appeared on his private screen. You have full authorization. The decision is yours. Jake looked out at the battle raging around the Harbinger homeworld. Human ships continued to tear through the alien defenses while Amy Sullivan's boarding parties captured key vessels. The outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity would win this battle. The only question was how complete their victory would be. A new transmission cut through the chaos. A Harbinger commander, his multiple eyes wide with what humans could only interpret as terror, appeared on the main screen. "Human commander, we surrender. Our fleet yields to your superior strength. We propose immediate cessation of hostilities and negotiation of terms." Jake stared at the alien who belonged to the same species that had slaughtered New Eden without offering humanity the same chance to surrender. His voice was steady when he replied, "The time for surrender was before you murdered our people. You made your choice then. Now face the consequences." He turned to Colonel Clark. "Activate Project Starfall. All devices simultaneous detonation." "Jake," Dr. Hayes said quietly, "are you sure? 50 billion lives." Jake thought of New Eden burning, of 2.1 million innocent people killed without mercy, of Kate Sullivan dying alone on an alien ship after uploading the data that made this victory possible. They killed 12 entire civilizations. Lisa, trillions of innocent beings over thousands of years. This ends today. The Project Starfall devices activated simultaneously around all 3 stars in the Arcturus Proxima system. The stellar manipulation technology that humanity had developed specifically for this moment began its terrible work, destabilizing the nuclear cores of each star. The first star began to collapse within minutes. Its surface convulsed as the carefully placed gravitational distortions tore apart the delicate balance that had kept it stable for billions of years. The collapse triggered a cascade reaction that spread to the other 2 stars. "All human ships, emergency withdrawal to minimum safe distance," Jake ordered. "The stellar collapse is accelerating beyond our projections." The Harbinger fleet, still locked in combat with humanity's forces, suddenly found themselves facing a much more immediate threat than human weapons. Their ancient homeworld was about to be consumed by not 1 but 3 simultaneous supernovas. "The Harbingers are transmitting on all frequencies," Alex reported, his voice shaking. "It's a galaxy-wide broadcast." The transmission filled every communication channel in known space, carrying the final message of a dying civilization to every intelligent species in the galaxy. "To all who received this transmission," the Harbinger voice was thick with despair, "know that we have awakened something terrible. The species you call humans possess a fury that can erase stars from existence. We came to their peaceful world and brought death. In return, they have brought us extinction. Let our fate serve as a warning. Do not attack the humans." Their fury erased every star. The triple stellar collapse reached critical mass. 3 ancient suns, each billions of years old, died simultaneously in a cascade of nuclear fire that outshone entire galaxies. The explosion could be seen from thousands of light years away. A brilliant new nebula that would burn in the galactic sky for millions of years. Every Harbinger ship, every orbital station, every inhabited world in the system was vaporized instantly. 50 billion members of the galaxy's most successful predator species ceased to exist in a single moment of cosmic fire. Major Sullivan's voice came over the comm from one of the surviving human ships at the edge of the blast zone. "Target eliminated, Admiral. The Harbinger civilization is extinct." Jake stood in silence, watching the expanding sphere of superheated gas that had once been the Arcturus Proxima system. Humanity had achieved total victory, but the cost of that victory would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. "Admiral," Dr. Hayes said softly, "long-range sensors are detecting responses to the Harbinger transmission. Every major civilization in the galaxy received their final message. The implications were staggering. Every alien species in known space had just learned that humanity possessed the ability and willingness to destroy entire star systems. The peaceful explorers who had celebrated New Eden's anniversary were gone forever, replaced by something that could erase civilizations from existence. "Set course for Earth," Jake commanded. "The war is over." 5 years later, Jake stood in the memorial garden built on the reconstructed New Eden colony. The planet had been rebuilt as a monument to those who died, and a reminder of what humanity could become when pushed too far. In the night sky above, the Arcturus Memorial Nebula glowed softly, visible to the naked eye. Dr. Hayes approached, carrying a data pad with the latest intelligence reports. The galactic situation remains stable, Jake. No alien civilization has shown any hostile intent toward humanity since the Harbinger extinction. Their final transmission has become known as the Warning throughout explored space. Jake nodded. The price of peace had been the death of an entire species, but perhaps that price would prevent future wars. Every alien child in the galaxy would grow up knowing the story of what happened when someone attacked the humans. Any word on the deep space exploration missions? Jake asked, all proceeding normally. The Zephyrians, Karathi, and Vex Collective remain our allies. If anything, our relationships have grown stronger since they know we'll protect them from any future threats. Alex Turner, now captain of the rebuilt New Eden Defense Station, joined them in the Memorial Garden. The anniversary ceremony went well. President Carter's speech was particularly moving. Jake looked up at the memorial wall, reading the names of the 2.1 million people who had died in the original attack. At the top of the list was Commander Kate Sullivan, whose sacrifice had provided the intelligence that made victory possible. "Do you ever regret it?" Lisa asked quietly. "The extinction of the Harbingers?" Jake was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the terrible choice he had been forced to make. "They killed 12 civilizations, Lisa. Trillions of innocent beings over thousands of years. If we had shown them mercy, they would have eventually killed us all and moved on to the next species." He turned to look at the thriving colony around them, at the children playing in parks that had been rebuilt from ash, at the spaceport where ships from a dozen different species came and went in peace. The galaxy is safer now. Sometimes that's the best we can do. As night fell over New Eden, the Arcturus Memorial Nebula continued to burn in the sky above, a reminder that some lines should never be crossed. Across the galaxy, alien children learned the story of the day humanity proved that mercy has limits, and that some prices are too high to pay twice. The Harbingers had wanted to bring extinction,